Welcome back to CVP Part 2. Alright, so why is this important? This how costs behave thing that we were just talking about. I'm going to show you how it would work with something simple, a little simple exercise here. So we've got this range, we've got that Vogel's manufacturing memory chips, 25,000 to 100,000 per year. What they want to know is what would the cost be, alright? So if we're making, here we go, we've got 45,000, 60,000, and 75,000. And what we've got is we've got the cost, the variable cost for 45,000, the fixed costs for 45,000. Alright, now the first thing I want you to do is think about this for a second. Didn't I say earlier fixed costs don't change based on activity levels changing? Well, that's going to be the case here. So if we're trying to figure these out, realize that this is going to be 810,000, and this is going to be 810,000. Because it doesn't matter if we make 1 or 100 or 45,000 or 75,000. In this case, it's going to be fixed costs of 810,000. However, we do know the variable costs are going to change, so we're going to look at that. Now, let's take a look back at this 45,000 for a second. If we're making 45,000 widgets or memory chips, we do actually know what we're making this from, and it's 1,350,000. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1,350,000. Divided by the 45, let's see if I can do this, divided by 45, and you're going to come out with the variable cost per unit, which is going to be $30. $30 of variable cost per unit. The fixed cost per unit, we're going to do the same thing, 810,000 divided by 45,000. All right, so we'll do it here. How about that, 810 divided by 45,000. And this one was 810. Oh, sorry, no, wrong thing. Undo. Let's go back to my erase orb here. Erase. Pen. 1,350,000 divided by 45,000. Okay, hopefully you got that, even though it's a little messy. All right, so 810 divided by 45,000. Is $18 per unit. So the total cost per unit, we add these two, and we're at $48 per unit. Okay. Now, what if we're making 60,000? Well, variable cost per unit doesn't change if I make one. That was back to the example I gave you the first one. If I make one, it's $10. If I make two, it's $20. If I make three, it's $30. But it's $10 a piece no matter what. So that's kind of the same thing with the variable cost. It's going to be $30 a piece, no matter how many we make. Okay, so I'm going to put that in both of these. $30 a piece. Well, if it's $30 a piece, and I'm making 60,000 of them, then 30,000 times 60,000 is 1,800,000. All right, so 1,800,000 plus the 810, my total costs would be 2,610,000. Hopefully you're having an easier time than I am writing on your notes. Okay. The fixed cost per unit, we're going to take the 810,000 and we're dividing it by 60,000. So remember when I talked about this teacher salary, that the more students you spread it over, the lower the fixed cost per unit. So now it's 810 divided by the 60, and you're looking at 13.5. So now the total cost per unit is 43.5. All right. We're going to do the same thing here. It's $30 per unit, and you're making 75,000 of them of variable costs. So that's 2,250,000. We can add these two together to be 3,060,000. And the fixed cost per unit, again, is going to drop even further because now we're spreading it over 75,000 units. So 810 divided by 75,000, you're looking at 10.8, making the fixed cost per unit 40.8. Right? Because variable costs go up, right? These costs go up as you're making more. That's the point of them. Fixed costs per unit, though, are going to stay the same. Well, fixed costs are going to stay the same, but the fixed costs per unit go down because you're spreading them over more units. And as you spread those fixed costs over more units, the total cost of them go down. Okay, so hopefully this helps you see a little bit how we're using these fixed costs, how we're using these fixed and variable costs, what the purpose is of them. All right, so we're going to move on to the next thing, which is the high-low method. And what the high-low method is it's about splitting costs into their fixed and variable components. All right, there is really no way to look at mixed costs in the calculations we're doing. It's really that, like I just said, that we're going to split a mixed cost. Remember, it's two pieces, a flat fixed piece and then a variable piece. We're going to split it into those two pieces, so this way we can then figure them into our calculations of the variable and fixed components of things. All right, so one of the ways we do this is something called the high-low method. Now, the high-low method is just that. You're looking at the highest level of production and you're looking at the lowest level of production. You're not looking at anything in between. I can't tell you how many times I see students pick something in the middle, and I'm like, it's the high-low method. All right, so let's go through an example of this. All right, like I said, all right. Oh, you go back up for a second so you can get there you go, the description. So if we're looking at January, February, March here, we've got January is your low and March is your high. So, I mean, right off the bat, let's just get rid of February. We don't even want to look at that because that is not part of this. It is high, it is low. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to kind of give you a formula. The idea is you've got high costs minus low costs, all divided by high units minus low units. All right. So what we take is we take the highest costs, which is $2,400,000, minus the lowest costs, which is $1,900,000, and we divide that by how many units we need. So it's 30,000 minus 20,000. So if we do the math on that, that comes out to be $50 per unit. That $50 per unit is your variable cost. All right, you're like, how is that the variable cost? How do you even know that's the case? Well, I will tell you. All right. Oop, I'm frozen. Okay, it froze for a second. I don't know what that was about. All right, so what's the point of this? Variable costs are $50 per unit. How do I know that? Because the idea is the only costs that are going to change based on activity levels changing are your variable cost, right? Fixed costs don't change. So when I went from 30,000 units to 20,000 units, the cost increased by 500,000 as my numerator there. That is variable. That's got to be variable because fixed costs don't increase as your activity levels increase. So it's kind of like that's a step one. That is your variable cost per unit. What I want to figure out though is I also want to figure out what my fixed costs are in total. And this is an estimate, right? This is for budgeting, right? Think about it. Budgeting, all these things, these projections, for the most part, they're estimates. If you think about accounting overall, huge portion of accounting is estimates. All right. So let's say we've got total cost. The total cost of making a product is going to be, your fixed costs plus your variable costs, right? That's all of your costs. We know the total cost. We know the total cost. You can pick either the high or the low, and this is going to work for you. I happen to pick the high for my example. The total cost is $2,400,000. My fixed cost, I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. My variable cost, I know, is $50 per unit. Times how many units for $50? Well, that was 30,000. Right, so if we multiply this, you're at what, 1,500,000. We do the little subtraction here. We would wind up with our fixed costs being 900,000. Okay, so what I've done is I've separated mixed costs into fixed and variable pieces so that I can do these things like projections and the things that we're going to be doing, which are break-even analysis and target profit and so on. All right, so here we go. You've got your variable piece, $50 per unit, and you've got your fixed of 900,000. All right. Let's see if we move on. We're ready to talk about cost, volume, profit analysis. I'm going to start with video 3, so I'll be right back.